Welcome to Falcons Ledge. I'm Ostringer, and today we are making our first maker video. This is a series I've been really excited to do. All of this stuff here is all part of the maker stuff that I'm working on right now. And I finally received all of the parts that I needed, except for one, to get started on the Apache Collective. So that's what we're looking at today. I'm going to give an overview of the project, tell you where I am, and tell you what the next steps are going to be for this project. So really cool stuff if you ask me. So let's get started. So where I am, these are the 3D printed parts for the collective. I got these from a person named Viper1970. I will be posting the STLs to this in the first phase, in all phases really, but in the first phase where these things, it's all prototyping, I will be putting them on Thingiverse, so you can look for them there, and they'll also have links to all the electronics that I used. There are a lot of hat switches in these things, and the hat switches I'm going to be using are these, which I will also link. They're linked in my build thread on the Discord channel, the HOSAS Discord. These are another part of them, but I've designed a new one of these. If you look to see the shafts of these are very smooth, and I had some difficulty getting them to engage properly when you would try to click them. I've got an example right here. On this one, it's partially assembled. You can see that there's the two tactile switches, so that's what these tactile switches are for, and this is a two-way, so that one works. It doesn't have the cap on it. You can see the cap is right here. I'm not going to be doing them this way. I think that in this first iteration, just to get them to work, here's an example of, this is the modified one. This is the modified one that does work. If I pull this out, you're going to see right here that the shaft now has indentations on it, and that this end is a little longer. That way it can protrude a bit further, and it works great. So this is the one that I'm going to be using, and the way I'm going to be getting it in there is I'm actually going to be coming in from behind. I'm going to open this hole up a bit bigger. I'm going to cut it larger, and I'm actually going to glue them in there like that. So that cover will be black, and it will be glued into that round area. And since these things are usually about the same size as this hole, I'll actually be able to put them in there in one piece already assembled. I do have the option to take it apart and pull the backing off of there and take the screw out of here, and so that'll work. There is another type of four-way switch that might get used. I don't know if I have those here. I think I do. I think that they are right over here. So these are a 5-way switch. I'll be experimenting with these in version 2. And this is a smaller version than the ones that I have coming. But they are actually a 5-way switch already built with a center click. So I will experiment with these. I don't know if I'm going to like these more than I like the other ones, but I'm going to be making tops for them. So I'll put that over in my pile of stuff. So that's these two things. These will be used for the majority of the switches, right? There's a couple of push button switches. By the way, this model is really, really rough. I made it last year. So there's some of these that are push buttons. Some of them that are 4-ways, some of them that are 2-ways. I have these switches right here just in case I want to use the 2 and 3-ways for these. These are on switches. So in all of those positions, there's a contact for each position. So it can be on that way, and it's on in the center. All three have a function. I bought a bunch of them. I may use them for this lower stick, because there's several of those. I think there's 3 of them that are either 2 or 3 position. So I might utilize these, or I might use, just like I had that one here. Where is that? Let's see, I can't keep track of anything here. I had one of them that was a 2-way. That is not it. Anyway, I had one that was a 2-way. Oh, here it is. A lot of these these maker videos are going to be fairly casual. So this one is a two-way. So I created this as an experiment to kind of mess around with, okay, do I want to use this as a two-way instantaneous? So let's say one of these was switching between two things. I could click it forward and it would activate that, click it backwards and activate this. Since this isn't a real helicopter, I don't have to use exactly the same things that they do have here. Like I could make this a four-way and there's nothing that would be wrong with it. I would just use these two functions out of it. But I'm kind of experimenting with making these things as realistic as I can. But I don't really know if I want switches that are stay on type things. I'm okay with instantaneous with the way that the DCS works. So that's what I'm going to use these for. These are going to be used for the same thing there. One thing that I had to think about was how I was going to handle triggers. And so I decided to buy a box full of different height tact switches. That way I could embed one of these inside of a trigger and use these. So I've got a bunch of different types here that I can use. I just ordered a lot of this stuff off of Amazon. You can get it at AliExpress. You can get it all sorts of different places. So that's what I got these for. I hope that they're going to work for it. Again, all of these things are going to get reworked in version 2 and in version 3 and so on and so forth. That's my Apache MPDs. Those are coming soon. Okay, we talked about those. We are going to be using some of these switches. We'll just move these things out of here. Those are all going to be tact switches. Those are going to be coming up soon. All right, so these are just push button switches. And one thing that I wish I had got that I didn't was that these are not tactile. But in places like this, where this is the jettison switch, these things are going to go way down in there, and I'm going to have to print a taller head on it. So that's fine. That will work. But there's places like here where I'm going to have to embed this switch up underneath here. And I don't know if I'm going to be using this switch or something else. There's not a lot of room to work with here, so I don't know if that's going to work. Same thing with this spot here. There's not a ton of places to work. Do I put it in there and just use it like that? That's a possibility. That would need to be glued in. I don't know. We're going to have to figure those things out. Each one of these switches and buttons are going to have something like that. So I got a bunch of these for that. So we've talked about a whole lot of that stuff. And if we can actually put this together a little bit. I've had it assembled before, partially, just to see what it would look like. But it essentially goes together like... There's a lot of pieces to hold here, guys. It essentially goes together like this. Okay. And comes together apart like that. I may need to do some work here where I, route out a path for this stuff to get through. I don't know. I'm going to have to kind of examine how this thing goes together and see, okay, how is this going to path? Because we want to go through to get to the other end. So might have to do that. Maybe I'll drill a hole and have it come down through. I don't know. There's also a wonder, where am I going to place this piece? This is one of the electronics I'm going to be using. This is my first time really digging into these. This is a shift register. There's 3 shift registers. And then this shift register has to have a brain that it effectively plugs into, right? And that's going to be right here. An Arduino Uno R3, which is built on Arduino Leonardo. It's a Leonardo is what I purchased. So this thing has a little case that it connects to. I'll make a 3D printed cover for it. But this is actually going to connect to the side of a stick. Now, I'm going to explain to you exactly how that is all going to work later in a minute. But yeah, these are the electronics that I'm going to use. Of course, we need wires to connect all this together. There is some wires that this comes with. That's not enough. We need some more wires. So I had the idea to buy a ribbon cable. And this is a big long ribbon cable that I'll be able to pull parts off of. Like you can already see that this thing is having a wire pulled off. That's essentially what I plan to do. I don't know if this is a great idea or a bad idea. We'll see, I guess. But either way, this is my cable that I'm going to be using for the project. These are the plugs for the Arduino. I'll just cut them to the length of how much I need to use. I have a whole assortment of screws, M2s, M3s, M6s, and M5s. So I got a whole bunch of these. I'm going to be using a lot of different ones for different parts of the project. We have 2 triggers here. There are two kind of guards as well. These are probably going to get reprinted gray. So I've just kind of got those on the side. So yeah, we have all of our 3D printed things. This is bad supports. It worked, but it wasn't really great. So these will get printed again. And we actually had some lift off the bed as well. But this will be just fine for a prototype. That's what it's being used for. My next print will be a lot better. So here's what we're going to have to do. Oh, I have one more thing to talk about. This is a analog stick. So this is an analog stick like you would find in an Xbox controller. This is what's going to be powering the slew. So that's going to be going. I believe I've found some mounting methods for this. Some STLs that will give me a way to mount this. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to make one because I didn't get one that was already on a board. Maybe I'll do that for version 2. Hoping that works out all right. All right, so how are we going to get this to connect to the base that I'm going to use, which is Orion 1. Orion 1 will be the base for this collective. Well, we have no further to look than Orion 2. So if I bring up Orion 2 here, apologies for the bump there. On the F16 stick, you can see that it already has a single connection. And it already has a way to connect both of these together and have one piece that runs that. So I'm going to basically copy this in a CAD program. And I'm going to make it adapt to this piece right here. It will adapt here and hook into these 2 holes. It doesn't have to adapt in perfectly. I may leave this gap for the cables to come through, or I may route it out a bit. But that's going to be version 1. That piece will connect in here, and it will have an angle to it so that it interfaces properly with this axis. So when the axis is all the way forward, the stick will it'll be out a little bit. So the stick will be like so. So it'll be at its bottom position. And then as I pull it back, it will go up. Okay? So I'm going to have to figure out the angle that I'd like to use here to make that work and how much extension that I want to add on to it to make it work. The computer board, what I'm going to do is mount the Arduino here. And then the cable will come up the side. And it will go in through here and into the stick. That's how I'm planning on doing it. I may make some clamps, kind of like are on the F16 one, to clamp these 2 things down, like so, or like so, or something like that, just to keep them tidy. But either way, I think that this will be a great, because it's already got a nice feel to it. You know, it already has the ability to adjust the friction, so it's dampened. I think this will be has a good enough throw and everything. So I think this is going to be a good base, and it's something that I've already got. That way I don't have to build a gimbal for it, right? These will be a good set of switches to have down below on next to your hip to handle startup and stuff like that. So it's great. So this is our first project, our first DIY project. And I'm going to talk shortly about the different phases that this will go through, because I want you guys to understand and be able to decide, hey, when do I want to get involved with this? When do I want to build this? So version 1, this is a prototype. This is not my model. This is Viper's model. So what I'm going to do with this is in version 2, I'm going to say, okay, So what have I done with this what have I done using this existing model, and how could this model be modified or remixed is what it is going to be in Thingiverse to more suit my project. So I'm going to modify it and maybe redo some of these pieces here so that they function better with, say, some of these 5-ways. If I decide I like these built-in 5-ways better than I do these self-built ones, maybe I build each one of these holes so that they specifically suit that need. Or maybe I use a specific button in here. Maybe I'll redo this hole. Maybe I'll change how they're built inside so that they better suit the type of electronics that I'm using. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I'm going to remix that and make it better for my project. Maybe I'll redo how these triggers work so that they work with a different type of trigger that maybe I like the feel of more. Who knows? I'm just throwing things out there so you guys can understand. And I'm going to be using you guys as a sounding board for stuff that you'd like to see in it. So if you have a suggestion, hey, I want to see this. I want to see this kind of device. Let me know. I can take a look at that and see if that will fit into the project. I'm also going to be working on, like, I'm not going to sand this one. You can see that you can see layer lines. Not terrible. The tops of these actually turned out pretty good. There are some layer lines. I printed this on an Ender-3 Pro. When I printed this, my Ender-3 Pro was mostly stock. It is not stock now. I've got a Sprite extruder. It's direct drive. I have a better heating solution for the bed. I have a much better cooling solution. These right here, which you're going to be finding out about soon, were done on the new printer, and they turned out pretty good. Not too bad. But I will be working on things like, okay, how do you sand these down? How do you use filler on them? How do you smooth them out? How do you paint them? And then in probably the third phase, I will be making this out of resin. So what I'll do is I will take these chambers here, and I'll actually fill them in as much as is realistic so that it has a very solid resin feel to it. And I'll be doing a lot of that with joysticks there. So the first phase will be that. The second phase will be I'll be really streamlining the model itself and getting it to work well with that. In phase 3, I may cut down on electronics and make it more less complex, less difficult to build. And then finally in phase 5, I may do a gimbal specific for this. So build a gimbal and do and put all that together into one package instead of using this as a base. So tell me what you guys think about this project. I've got several projects coming. I think that the order that we're going in, this one is going to take me a long time to do, and it's going to have a lot of videos. These pedals are going to be a shorter project, and there's going to be less learning required to put them together. So I think that this one is probably going to be something that's going to be finished first. I plan to start this project next week, so you'll see an intro video to that one. The Apache MPDs will be the project that happens after these two. So this one will start first. This one will complete first. Then once this is complete, I'll start on these. These are fairly simple. All these are tact switches and a couple of pots. So yeah, and an encoder. I think there's one encoder. One of them's an encoder, 2 pots, and tact switches. So these tact switches, they're going to be really easy to work with. I'll probably run them off of a Pro Micro, and yeah, that's what these are going to be. I've considered maybe doing, I don't know if I'm going to do 2 Pro Micros for 2 of these. I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to build these. I've got a couple of other things that I've got too. Like I've got a TEDAC. I want to build a TEDAC. My nephew, I really want him to fly Apache with me. So I'm going to actually build him a functioning TEDAC. And so he can be my front seater. I'll probably do the 2 MPDs as well. So he'll have like a little Apache cockpit that he'll get to work with. It'll be cool. And then finally, I will do a F16 upfront a data entry pod. I don't remember what those are called. Anyway, let me know what you think. Please leave your comments in the comment section down below. If you're looking for merch, we do have our We Blow Stuff Up Here merch. The link is in the description down below. It is a lot of fun making these videos. I'm really thrilled about this stuff. Let me know if you like the more casual atmosphere and how these things are working. And yeah, I look forward to all these things. Let me know what you'd like to see. As always, guys, fly safe, have fun, and have a great day.